All right, we're live. Everyone, welcome to my channel. Its underlying mission is to help more people experience mental, emotional, and financial freedom. And tech sales is a vessel, a vehicle to get there. I talk about tech sales being one of the fastest career paths to making six figures. Well, today we're going to blow that out of the water. We've got Brandon Fluharty here, who has made $1 million since 2019 in SaaS sales, and he's going to illuminate how that's possible. We're going to dig into his 7-step system to get to seven figures and his operating system to stay there in the seven-figure range. You're going to want to stay for the whole video, so make sure to stick with us the whole time. I know you're going to be on the edge of your seat, and make sure to give this video a like. Give that like button a love tap because the YouTube algorithm loves that, and we'll show this to more people who could benefit from the message. And of course, before we dive in, make sure to subscribe for weekly sales, mental health, and personal growth hacks that you can chew on like snacks. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce Brandon. Do you want to say a quick hi? And can you talk about your backstory? Because you told me you weren't always the seven-figure seller. So would love to hear from you on who you are, and where you came from to get here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Chris. Great to be here. So I tried to start my career as a professional soccer player in Europe.
Nice.
And didn't quite work out for me, ran into some injury issues, but took a lot of lessons around discipline, managing my schedule, and just elite performance. Took that into my sales career. Happened into sales like many in sales. I didn't start in the software space, but eventually found my way after going through SMB sales, mid-market selling into enterprise, and then eventually strategic selling, where I eventually found myself earning $1 million a year, following a specific system.
Incredible. And so weren't you on the struggle bus at first? Even struggling with small ticket sales, what changed,
Climb the ranks. And actually the first time where I really had to restart was a life restart, moving from New York City, where I had to declare bankruptcy. My wife and I had to sort of restart in a small town in Florida where she grew up, and had a decent role in New York City, selling some really cool stuff to the likes of Gucci and Royal Caribbean, and Crunch Fitness, doing some really cool stuff. We were selling background music solutions that were curated by celebrity DJs. But moving to this small town in Florida, kind of had to restart all over again.
What town, by the way? I'm from Naples, Florida. Born and
raised. Cool. Sarasota.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little north of you.
You play baseball tournaments over there. I know what you're talking about. Anyway.
Yeah. And so started all over again here, as actually during the economic meltdown in 2008. And I was selling small print ads in a kind of a community paper to local bars and restaurants and other small businesses. And I was struggling, to be honest with you. I was about to get fired. I knew it was coming. Luckily, I was able to make that pivot and move before I got the axe. But it was a humbling experience to sort of have to start from the ground up, but eventually, climb the ranks.
That's encouraging for the audience to hear. I think a lot of us have been through that scenario where we know there isn't a fit. Maybe we're on the way out, but sometimes I think that, rejection is God's protection. I know it's cheesy and it points us in a new direction. And it sounds like you pivoted into an incredible path. And so how did you break into tech sales? Because I've had people reach out to me like, hey, I'm in construction sales. I want to get into tech. We know that even Forbes, they're writing about it, that tech sales is the most lucrative type of sales you can be in. So how did you break in? Maybe the audience could learn from that.
Yeah. So shortly after making a pivot from selling print ads, I did go over to another media company, and it was actually getting into digital. So I did start selling recruitment software through a partnership between monster.com. Who's your friend?
It's my puppy Bella. She joins me on every video. I'm worried too she could be rambunctious and chewing things, so I try and keep her close. But this is Bella. Oh shoot,
Bella's a cutie.
And, she is very curious to know how to make seven figures herself.
There you go. Well, stick around, Bella. The
Yeah.
best is yet to come.
Yep.
So yeah, after that, it was a local paper, the Herald Tribune, that had a partnership with Monster.com. So that gave me a little taste of digital. I stayed there not too long. I actually then got recruited to go upstairs, literally in the same building, to the local news station. And I got into TV advertising. And that was actually the first time breaking into six figures, earning six figures for the first time. I was with that TV station for a few years. And I saw the writing on the wall. We're talking like 2012 at that time, like TV advertising and newspaper advertising sort of taking a decline and everything going to digital. I was still selling into mostly small and medium-sized businesses.
Yes.
And so everything was moving to Google, search engine optimization, retargeting, remarketing, all that good stuff. That was sort of the cool technology at that point. And I wanted to be a part of it. So the way I sort of went about getting into a SaaS company, I just treated the recruitment process sort of like a sales engagement. I sort of surveyed the scene of like all of the hot companies. And I also wanted to get myself out of a local company. So I looked at all the best national companies who were providing these types of digital marketing solutions to small and medium-sized businesses. And in the end, I landed a job with Reach Local, and I was able to stay in the local market. And I was able to present a business case to them saying, hey, I have this network and this book of business that I could turn into digital marketing. And I ran that playbook and then stayed with them for a few years before then elevating my career up into mid-market from there.
That's so smart. And I've done that myself where I leverage past relationships to pivot,
Yeah.
even into a new industry in your case, selling
Yeah.
something different. Now, I was reading up on your story a little bit, and I noticed one of your key things is that you make seven figures and talk about that without burning out. Can
Yeah.
you talk about your daily routine? It sounded like you grinded and you hit your numbers, but it doesn't have to be that way. So what was the before and after in terms of how you like spent your time and you know?
Yeah, I was successful doing it the old way, as I call it. And this probably sounds familiar for a lot of viewers, which is, pervasive in SaaS sales cultures, which is just, wake, hustle, grind, work around the clock, grab that Red Bull in the afternoon, keep going, work hard on the weekends.
Shoot, I had a
Whatever it
Monster
is.
just now.
Okay, there you go. All right. No offense to the energy drinks. But I ran into some actually physical health issues. I actually had a mini stroke in my 30s.
Wow.
And no known cause for it. The only thing I could sort of point to, not a smoker, not a drug user, didn't have a hole in my heart, didn't have a pre-existing condition. The only thing I could point to is just like how hard I was literally hustling and grinding around the clock. And you'd think that was a wake-up call. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Still fell back into the bad behaviors because, chasing that quota, chasing those big commission checks, it is alluring. But really what changed, I would say, was the pandemic. The pandemic, one, forced everybody to sort of go introspective on a lot of things, but it halted big, I was going after, at this point, I was in strategic sales, going after large enterprise, Fortune 50 level brands. And I was focused solely on new business logo acquisition. And as you can imagine, new business was decimated, in March 2020. And it was crickets for like 6 months.
It was such a struggle. It was so depressing, and it was hard not to take it personally. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, oh, am I a horrible seller? But it was just a macro thing. Anyways.
Macro events, things out of your control. And so after that initial shock and awe like wore off, I gained comfort into going deep on really uncovering and unpacking this concept of a personal operating system. And I was doing it in bits and pieces. Even when I was traveling, almost every week or every other week, going to visit a client or a prospect, events, what you name it. I always tried to stay healthy on the road and watch my sleep and things like that, but always hard to do in that environment. But when I started to really go deep into like being intentional, focusing actually on deep work, actually after reading the book Deep Work by Cal Newport, which is awesome, I really started to be intentional with my time, but more importantly with my energy. And so two things I started to really get into was controlling the things that I could do every workday, which was how I started my day and how I ended my day. And so I started doubling down on my morning routine and started trying new things out. Same thing in my end of day routine, where I would always plan out tomorrow, time block my calendar, really question if a meeting was high value, if it was worthwhile. And I just started tracking it in a simple Google sheet. And those things were sort of my foundation, and I actually started looking forward to my morning routine. I started looking forward to ending my day consistently. And it actually took me back to my athletic days, back when I was trying to be a professional soccer player in Europe, having a consistent routine, having a consistent schedule. I was sort of out of the chaos of what can be enterprise selling, strategic selling. And it gave me a lot of peace and calm. And then after a while, when things started to come back and rally from a business standpoint towards the end of that year, I was at that point on a good sleep schedule. I was tracking these things through a wearable like Whoop. I was managing my task and aligning my task through my energy states, doing my hardest and most important tasks during my peak energy states. I would take breaks, do all these interesting things that started to define my personal operating system that actually could be repeatable by other people. And when I started doubling down on that, I actually started accelerating deals. And I found actually operating this new way, I was able to close about 14.1 million in annual recurring revenue compared to 2 years it took me to close 13.4 million in ARR doing it the old way. And so it was a light bulb moment for me to say, whoa, there's something here. Actually prioritizing my health, actually being intentional, not giving my time and energy away and living in my inbox all day can actually accelerate sales results. So I started moving away from more of these traditional activity metrics based evaluation to more of looking at things like my sleep and my sleep debt were better leading indicators of how I was going to perform that week than the sales metrics. And I just kept doubling down on it, and the results, the deals, the big deals kept coming, and I kept going.
You know what? That reminds me of what a guy, Aluba Phoenix, who is an executive coach at Google, and when I was at Google Cloud, he was a sales trainer, said to me, he said, elite performers in professional athletes or sales, they don't manage their time. Not that they don't do that. They manage their energy. And you're hitting on that as an elite performer, being able to manage your energy and well-being. And you had that turning point, which is very moving. And it reminds me of Ariana Huffington. And she wrote a book, Thrive. I don't know if you've read it, but she had a crash. She literally collapsed, and she realized we focus on money and power, but the most important leg might be well-being. So what you're saying really resonates. And I think this is a foundational, great reminder to the audience to manage the roots. It's like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Sharpen the saw and manage the roots for sustainability. And so isn't that step number 7, by the way? Because of course, audience, we're going to cover these 7 steps, right, to 7 figures, but that's number 7, right? And aren't there 3 frameworks for, could you dive into that? Do we mind? I know we're starting with the end. But
yes, it's kind of starting with desserts before.
Do you want to? Should we wait? Should we?
No, it's good. No, I like it because in a lot of ways, it's a good place to start, and that's really how I designed this whole system that I call 7 Steps to 7 Figures. Is I really like to encourage people, especially when we're talking about a personal operating system, to not forget really one important thing, which is make it personal. And I really despise this notion that, hey, I did it this way, and so should you. And that's why I actually think it's very appropriate to talk about these frameworks that I talk about in step 7, because I really believe in mental models over playbooks.
Mm,
I think enterprise strategic sellers are way too intelligent to just follow somebody else's orders. You should
yeah.
develop your own playbook. So the frameworks that have helped me, that I think is universal and it's scalable to anybody who wants to be an elite performer and do it consistently and do it like Ariana Huffington, where you're not burning yourself out and collapsing, is the first one's called manage your temper. And temper, TEMPR in this case, stands for time, energy. We talked about those two, managing those effectively. But also, I think there's 3 other things that you should manage well, which is your motivation,
Mm,
and simply asking yourself, what motivates you, or what account motivates you? That will keep you coming back every day. When you're creating the time for yourself, you're creating the energy for yourself. How do you apply that energy? Well, you want to apply it on things that motivate you, versus things that you're being told to do, or you're just going through the motions because your account list is assigned to you. How do you find more meaning in that? And again, back to the concept of deep work, it means scratching below the surface. The P stands for priorities. How do you prioritize your efforts around the things that motivate you? Again, that's kind of forcing you to answer questions every day, make decisions. And then the R, kind of cheat here, it stands for right focus. And when you're applying your attention and again answering, am I doing the right thing right now? It helps you to snap out of it if you're mindlessly scrolling Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever it is. You can constantly ask yourself, am I doing the right thing right now? Am I applying the right focus? So that's what managed temper really means. And I think if you can manage those 5 things effectively, man, it's almost guaranteed you will have success. So that's the first model. And then the second one is, well, to make that work, you want to apply something I call DFC. And DFC stands for discipline, flexibility, and curiosity. And the way I look at it is the micro unit of success in a year. And typically that's how you're judged in enterprise and strategic selling, or even if as an entrepreneur, creator, whatever it is. You want to be successful in a year, because this type of deep work, it takes time. It's not going to be measurable necessarily in a month or even a quarter. It's going to take a year. And so the single unit is a single work day. And the way I look at my work day is I want to start with discipline, almost like a world-class athlete knows how to prepare themselves for training or intense competition. And I do that through my warm-up, my daily warm-up routine. That then gets me ready to be in the middle of the day, where I need to be maybe a bit more flexible. Why do you need to be flexible? Well, you can't control everything that happens in the middle of the day. You might get an email from an angry client or prospect,
yes.
or Slack, from your teammates. Obviously, you want to try to control those distractions the best you can, but you need to be a little more flexible. You could time block and have your calendar perfect the way you want it, but we know that's not reality. Sometimes you just need to be flexible. And then the C, I want to end the day with curiosity, almost like a scientist looks back on an experiment, and that allows me to stay objective and remove the emotion. So I can look back on my day and ask 2 really simple questions. What went well? And how do I repeat that tomorrow? And then what didn't go so well, and how do I improve that tomorrow? And by the way, DFC is a great way to operate with anything that has a beginning, middle, and end. That could be a single meeting, a demo, a whole sales engagement, you name it. And then underpinning all of this, DFC kind of parallels nicely into the last mental model and framework that I call PREP. And PREP stands for plan, rest, effort, and perform. And so the last thing I do as a part of that review, using the curiosity to look on my day, I then use that energy to plan out tomorrow. And that's the last thing I do before shutting down the computer for the day. And by brain dumping everything that's on my mind, getting that into a trusted system, time blocking my calendar so it's protected, and knowing what my most important task is going to be tomorrow, my high value, high leverage activity, that frees up my mind to actually be present, and then our rest in the evening. I can be present with my wife. We can relax. I can enjoy myself and not have these things hanging over my head because I've gotten them out of my head. And then obviously that should lead to a good night's sleep. And then I wake up and I have energy, or the ability to have effort, give 100% effort into my most important task after I've done my warm-up routine. And I try to have that most important task done. I kind of gamify this in my system. And so I try to have my most important task done before I've done two things. I've checked email or I've had my first meeting. So it sort of is a force mechanism. It's sort of a fun way to get that done. And then P, performance, and kind of along the lines of curiosity, that allows me to perform at a really elite level. And I can look back on it and measure my performance, always looking with curiosity. How did I perform, and where could I get better?
So you've got this operating system and 3 frameworks within it that we can apply today, or starting tomorrow, technically, because the workday is just about over, to show up powerfully as our best self every day, intentionally, to gain control of our time and energy, and to be consistent and operate at the highest level possible. And I love the flexibility of it. Now, one question I have for you on this topic, I don't know if this falls within your operating system, but my friend Dusty, who told me to reach out to you in the first place, who works at Google Cloud, just raved about you. He said you have this thing called Pomodoros. Do you have these like intervals? Can you talk about that? I'm very curious how we can apply that.
Yeah. So anybody can Google Pomodoro Technique. It's not something I came up with. It's an established technique, super, super simple. And the idea is you use a timer, kind of like a timer for cooking Pomodoro sauce. I think that's the urban legend of where it came from. So you set a timer, and there are tons of Pomodoro timers out there in the App Store. And I actually have one on my computer, I have one on my phone. It's actually all linked. And the idea is you set a timer for 25 minutes. And this is especially great for your deep work efforts, whether it's building, I don't know, a strategic proposal, a presentation, whatever it is, that requires intense focus and getting into flow state. So you set a timer for 25 minutes. And then when that timer goes off, take a break. And literally the timer will show up and then gives you a 5-minute countdown, and you hit play. And what I try to do is literally step away. I drink a lot of water, so I usually have to go to the bathroom anyways, or get more water, whatever it is. I do try to step away and cognitively step away too. I'm not taking my phone and looking at social media or then answering emails. I literally try to take a break or walk outside, and then come back fresh. And if I need to finish that task, and if my calendar permits it, then I set another timer and I go solo tasking on that deep work effort. And I find that one, it's just really gratifying to get into that flow state, but it's just a
Mm.
great way to get really, really big stuff done in a relatively short period of time. Funny enough, I actually followed the Pomodoro Technique to actually write a 74-page ebook, the 7 steps to 7 figures. And I did it simply every day as a part of my morning routine. I would set a timer for 25 minutes and just write my book 25 minutes at a time. And it's amazing what you can get done over a pretty short period of time when you actually turn off Slack, you turn off email, you turn off social media, and you're not getting bombarded with all of these social notifications and distractions pulling you in a million different directions, or worse, trying to multitask while you're writing an email and then building a proposal over here, and you have the tabs all open in your your Chrome. Close it all down, focus on one thing at a time. You actually move, you do higher quality work for one, and you move faster that way.
So for the audience, we'll take a pause. We hit on the 7th step to 7 figures. We're going to hit the other 6, but just know we're going to link Brandon's ebook. It's only like $34, but the value is, it's hard to put a price tag on it in terms of implementing it to close more deals, strategic deals, and up your commission. So that's going to be linked. By the way, it's already linked in the description. We're also going to link the book Deep Work. I know we've hit on this concept a few times for people to check out. And Brandon, do you mind after this sharing a link to a Pomodoro timer? Because I've never used it. I've been using my phone, but I would love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so one thing I wanted to hit on before we get to the other 6 steps, and I think it was good to start with because this is so foundational for long-term success, is a couple philosophical questions.
Sure.
It seems like in talking with you prior to this actual interview, meaning is an important part of what you do, and it's more than just about making 7 figures in money. Like, meaning is critical to success. Can you talk about that, how meaning plays a part in your success and what drives you?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like, we want to make a lot of money, but I know we both agree that the money it's not the end, it's a means to an end, and it's a vehicle. So that's the other concept. So maybe first we could talk about infusing meaning, and then how money is a means to an end.
Yeah. So, coming from relatively humble beginnings, going through something like a bankruptcy, having to build up my credit, having to figure out how to sustainably earn income and make money. I definitely learned how to have a different relationship with money over the past 15 years. That wasn't necessarily me growing up. I didn't learn good fiscal responsibility growing up. And, I'm a big advocate that actually we should start teaching it in our education system. Learning the basics of good finance is, I think, really important. Can keep a lot of people out of trouble and helps us develop a better relationship with money. Because again, there's a lot of that extrinsic motivation that's fed to us every single day by the media and social media influencers and so forth. And I feel almost weird flashing my W-2. I feel weird talking about money because it doesn't feel like me authentically, but I know it's still a good hook. It is a reason, right? It's definitely a prime reason I got into sales because of the income potential, but I was always not there. To some degrees, I was always looking at the from a competitive nature, looking at the leaderboard and so forth. Loved, getting that big deal done and then a big commission check. But more importantly, I looked at it as money is a tool to have the freedom for my temper and apply once I had the means and I didn't inflate my lifestyle. It opened up a whole new world that, hey, I could spend my time the way I want and my energy and find the things that motivate me and prioritize everything around that, my right focus around that. So I think it's really important to understand. Also, when you earn these big commission checks, 6-figure commission checks 4 or 5 times a year, you think it's almost like winning the lottery, but your life doesn't or shouldn't change that much. You're still the same human being. And sometimes, like, when you do get to the top, you're kind of left scratching your head thinking, is there more to this? Is there more to life than the president's club and, reaching the top of the leaderboard? And you are forced almost to start scratching beneath the surface. And I think I got to a point where it was good and fine and dandy, but I want to start helping others, because my life has changed for better, to have the confidence and have the security and the future freedom. I want to give that back to the sales community. And why the sales community? Because it's been such a generous industry and job for me, a role, a career path, and it can be maximized to its fullest if you, again, develop your own journey and have a system in place that's really personal to you. And so that's more exciting to me, and creating products around that and creating content around that, and sharing that content, being open and authentic has been freeing for me. That's what's meaningful to me these days.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on this channel to contribute your perspective and experience. It is inspiring. I feel inspired, and I know the audience watching is inspired as well. And again, illuminating what's possible is such a powerful thing. And so let's dive into the first step. Doesn't have to do with being in the right environment. Could you talk about, for each of these steps, like kind of what is the step, and dig a little bit into, the details, the nitty gritty, if you can.
Yeah. So the first thing is, like, to earn 7 figures. This is like the thing that I get commented on the most is, well, yeah, you got to be in the right place. Yeah, well, you do. So that's why I do gear this towards SaaS sellers. I think there are sellers that can learn in other industries who can learn a lot, but the way you opened this show is so on point. I think one of the fastest paths to wealth generation is the SaaS sales space. Yes. There are top earners in the likes of real estate, hardware, and other industries for sure. But I think the scale, because I am certainly not the only 7-figure earner. You look at Jamal Reimer, you look at Ian Cognac, you look at those types of sellers who have done it. It can be done. It can be repeated. We just happen to be the few people who are talking about it. But, Microsoft or AWS competing for $1 billion contracts with the government. Tell you what, there are people getting paid big bucks when those contracts land. So it can be done. So getting in the right environment, yes. I sort of preface, the 3 truths in the ebook that, no offense, I've seen SMB sellers make tremendous income. When I was at Reach Local, there were top reps earning a few $100,000 a year, which is quite impressive. When you're talking like, 5-figure, not even 6-figure deals. So it just becomes almost a math equation that you've got to solve for. So you got to be in an environment, one, where big deals can happen. We're talking 6, 7, 8-figure deals. So what is an enterprise first level company? A Google Cloud, Salesforce, you name it.
Brandon, I knew some people at Google Cloud who made $1 million on my team. And it takes one monster deal, say if it was a $50 million deal. I knew someone at Oracle, a mentor of mine. And, he flashed his W-2. You're pretty humble about it. Now he's a director somewhere, and I love the guy. Love him to death. I actually, quick tangent. It was in Boston, and I went out to his place in Marshfield, and I was like, like Luke and Yode's like, sell me this pen, and I failed miserably. That was the type of coaching he was giving me. He did it, so you're right. I've seen it myself. I'm not saying I've done it, so that's why I'm from you.
They're out there. I knew it too before I got in the right environment. The unicorns out there. I worked for somebody who had done it. It can be done. So you got to get yourself in the right environment where you can at least have the opportunity to pitch Fortune 150 level companies and sell transformation. We'll talk about that in a subsequent step, but just be in the right environment. And then you can work backwards. And then because SaaS has such high margin, typically the commission rate, you look at like a commission, let's just call it real estate, I don't know, 4%, I think. You'd have to sell a lot of multi-million dollar condos in New York City or whatever, mansions in California to make seven figures. You look at the average commission in SaaS, we're talking 5 to 8%. Sometimes people say 7 to 10%. That's certainly what I've seen. And then you get into accelerator territory where you're almost double that. You're talking about not needing to sell as much from a just pure bottom line perspective to get in the seven-figure earners club. So that's what I break down. I talk a little bit about like some of the tools you can use to find the companies. Like that's a common question. Where do I go to find these companies? So I provide like some tools where you can go and actually find companies that do offer this. And it's actually the reps who talk about their commissions and provide their comp plan and so forth. I think culture is also important. You've got to take that into consideration, the leadership. And, you know, this concept of a Goldilocks type of environment. I was fortunate that I found a Goldilocks environment. It was like the right timing, the emergence of artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is going to fundamentally change businesses for the next decades to come. And I knew I could get in on that and be a part of that. So, you know, finding that Goldilocks environment, there's a way you can do it. And then once you're in that right environment, sort of work backwards from the commission plan and then apply your own data. What is your closing ratio? How many proposals did you send? What's your average deal cycle? Then you can just sort of plug that into a calculator that I provide in the system. And then you find your path. And then you understand, hey, is this realistic or not? And if it's not, well, maybe I should look elsewhere.
And even if it's not $1 million, this system we've created can at least help you get deep into the six figures, right?
That's right.
And so there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
And so again, find the right company, and then it's a science. It's really a science. It's not left up to chance. You reverse engineer and look at the numbers of how you get there and have a clear plan. What's step number 2?
Yeah. So step number 2 is be super strategic about defining your target account list. And the big light bulb moment for me was the first year earning seven figures was 2019. 2018 was a very foundational year for me, you know, earning well, right? Earning $200K that year. That's very nice income for so many folks. But I was really burning the wick at both ends, not to be cliche and jargony, but I was definitely going really hard. And one of the best things that I did going from 2018 to 2019 was a couple of things. One, I developed a theme for the year versus, you know, New Year's resolutions and goals, which we know we don't stick to.
Yes.
And my theme that I worked with my manager at the time on was slow down in order to speed up. And what he was observing in me in these really high level meetings, or even like my approach, was I was just saying yes to everything. Yes to meaning taking a lead, hoarding a lead, like wanting the best leads, the best companies. And that was working against my progress, because when I was spread so thin, I wasn't able to deliver quality work. And he saw when I was passionate about something, passionate about account, I could apply deep work and be really vested in a single account. We landed a big deal. We got the deal. It showed in front of the prospect. And so he said, Brandon, stop trying to do too much and just slow down. That will actually accelerate your results.
Wow.
And so I went through this exercise, and I came upon this Japanese concept of ikigai that's really popular, um, which roughly translates to reason for being. And it's a Venn diagram that brings together, what you're good at, what you love, and all that kind of thing. So I applied that actually to prioritizing my accounts. So I came up with 5 criteria that were really important to me. What did I like? What was I good at? What industry knowledge did I have? What motive, what interested me, and so forth. And I plotted my account list on this Venn diagram. And in the middle, it was a diamond, and I called them my diamond accounts. So anything that was getting inside the diamond or close to the diamond, that's where I spent my time. And that's where I spent my energy and focus. And I was thinking I would be happy making 500K this year. And I 3x that. I earned $1.5 million because I slowed down to accelerate. And I focused on a lot less. And I gave up some big, massive accounts. Literally the largest company in the world, Walmart, moved it off my list. Apple, because one of my criteria is I wanted to move fast. And I knew I wasn't going to get high level engagement like at the C-suite at those companies. So I'd be better off not spinning my wheels and going slightly down the Fortune 50, 100 chain to accounts that I could engage with the C-suite or at the very top executive level and be able to co-create and design an experience where we could do a transformation deal, even out of the gates without a POC, a proof of concept. And that was my strategy. That was a winning one to get me $1.5 million that year.
Yeah, it's easy to just be busy and react to like any deal. Just be a yes man. I've struggled with that in the past. And you're taking down these small deals when you're just going down the wrong path, when you could be going in this direction that's going to take you to your goal. And I love the concept of slowing down to speed up and being intentional. Now, within this habit, I remember reading in your book, and I don't want to give it all away, but calculating the value of your own time to be able to better determine where you spend your time. Was that in this habit? Like that's game changing. That's a cool thing. I actually did it.
Yeah. That actually was a part of step 1 and super simple. Yeah. Super simple exercise. Just go in your HR system. Look at how many hours you worked in the system. We typically work more than that. So if you need to adjust it. But anyways, it's a good standard. Like if you work 40-hour weeks, 8-hour days, that's a good chunk. And just divide your annual income, your gross income by that, those total hours. That gives you an effective hourly rate. And I think it's a really important number that we should really be conscious of, because that helps you to, again, make decisions. Like if an hour of my time is worth this, well, should I be pulled in this different direction to work on this thing? Whether it's in work or your personal life, you're able to stay focused on actually, I want to increase that hourly rate. So no, I'm going to say no to these things. And say yes to these other high value activities. So I think it's really, really important that everybody should know what their effective hourly rate is.
So that's actually tied to step 1. And again, step 2 is find the right accounts, be very strategic and intentional. What's step number 3?
Yeah. Step number 3 is once you start getting into these diamond accounts, like I did, you will likely start facing imposter syndrome or questions about your authenticity or your ability to sell transformations to these large companies, especially if you don't have tons of experience doing it. And again, it's certainly the case for me. And I worked with a very specific coach, and we worked through the concept that your thoughts drive your feelings, and then your feelings drive your actions, and then and so forth. It's a constant loop. And so I propose this concept in the system, in the ebook, to rethink your perceived weaknesses as strengths.
Yes.
And I give an exercise there, and I give an example of, hey, I'm highly introverted. And that was something that weighed on me for so long throughout
Really?
my sales
Never know
career.
it. Never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Because I've had to work on it, and get comfortable with it. And the idea that when I got into sales, you had to be this extroverted relationship builder. That deals always happen over dinner and drinks, almost like the Don Draper, sort
Yeah.
of old school 60s style of, that's deal making. And so I struggle with, like, I don't want to be going out to dinner or drinks with people. I get energized when I'm by myself. And then what I found eventually, once I found my right environment in strategic selling, and I could not have to be working so many accounts and building so many relationships, I could go deep. I could apply my introversion almost as a strategic strength. So I help people work through that. And you start to build a lot of confidence when you start seeing what really is not a weakness. It can be a sales superpower.
Wow, what you described exactly was cognitive behavioral therapy, how like
Yeah.
our thoughts fuel our emotions and actions, and
Yeah.
also positive psychology. There's a website, I don't know if it's positivepsychology.com, and it talks about, or maybe it's no strengths finders, where it says our perceived weaknesses, they're not weaknesses, they're imperfections, and there are strengths that come with it. And
Yeah.
I powerful what you said about reframing that. So one thing I'm observing and just calling out is that, you know, psychology, there's a big psychology component in sales. And one thing I found is that going deeper in sales has taught me more about how I'm wired and
Mhm.
helped me break through internal barriers and learn more about psychology in a positive way. Like, haven't you found that?
Yeah.
Like, isn't
Oh, yeah.
psychology a component?
Yeah. It was interesting. In college, I was always drawn to psychology. I was, wasn't a major of mine, or I didn't even finish college, but um, I was just really drawn to it. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, there is a direct correlation, because at the end of the day, sales is a very human centric industry, and it's one human connecting with another human and trying to understand one another, trying to solve problems. And when you can solve problems together, yeah, there's a level of psychology to that. There's psychology of making sure that you're finely tuned and optimized as a human being, but also the psychology of building an effective business relationship. Don't Not necessarily a relationship to be their friend, and the only way you get that business is because you take them out to fancy dinners or buy them front row seats at Lakers games. That's not effective business relationship. Effective business relationships is about co-creating something that can fundamentally make their business better. And there's a psychology to that. Absolutely.
What's encouraging is that you've shown through example that introverts can become top performers in sales. And
Yeah.
some people think, I'm an introvert, I can't be successful in sales. Not just you, but I knew a guy at Oracle that's now at Amazon that was one of our top performers, and he was totally introverted. And
Yeah.
as you pointed out, there are strengths that come with that. And also, the final thing I'll say on to this step is that you've normalized imposter syndrome, which I think is important. At Google, I really struggled with imposter syndrome. First, it was just coming to Google because I'm
Yeah.
like,
I'm
these people are
sure.
really
Yeah.
smart. And
Right.
second, when I first became a field sales rep, and I was decently young, right?
Yeah.
And so it was new territory, and I was with a lot of top performers, including Dusty, who you'd spoken
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
He has a
Yeah.
little more experience. And I relate to that talking to executives too that are like maybe double my age and have a lot more experience. So I think a lot
Yeah.
of the audience
Yeah.
out there can relate to that imposter
Sure.
syndrome,
Absolutely.
especially those trying to break into the industry. And you've shown me, and even reading the ebook, that it's normal and it's
Yeah.
okay, and you can
Yep.
overcome it. So
That's
that
right.
I love
Yeah.
that. What is we're at step number 4, aren't we?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. So it's create a standard that no one else delivers.
Ooh,
And I call it the diamond standard. So you're sensing a theme here with the diamonds. Once you have your diamond accounts, now you got to deliver a diamond standard. And for me, a diamond standard is knowing the customer's experience or customer's challenge better than the customer
mm,
themselves. And that's where we get back into a little bit of the psychology, but more importantly, design thinking, applying design thinking to how you do that. And I operate with DFC, but I think there's a way to sell that's in a similar vein, and it actually brings curiosity to the front. So with a mindset of curiosity, you can start to understand, well, what's it like to be a customer of this particular company or brand? And for selling conversational AI to business to companies that are B2C, business to consumer, I was fortunate that was very easy to do in the sense that I could understand what it was like to be a customer on an airline or at a
Yes.
retail store or at a restaurant or you name it, at a hotel chain. And I could be that customer. I could be curious and understand on what it was like to interact with their website, on their planes, in their locations, with their people. And I could start to understand insights that then we could come together on and start co-creating a solution for that. So I was bringing them value, and that was confidence too. That was bringing confidence to me, again, helping to overcome a little bit of that imposter syndrome and showing, hey, what I'm doing is extremely valuable. I know our product really well. I know how to apply that product because I know their customer experience really well because I'm in their customer. And I want to be their customer because those are my diamond accounts. And so it becomes sort of like this momentum wheel, flywheel that you build for yourself that just helps you to almost automatically guarantee success. And you've got to deliver that level of interest and be interesting. You've got to give good, valuable insights. And a good way to get that emotionally back to the psychology is to show, hey, I'm your highest tier loyalty customer. I want to solve this kind of selfishly. I think there's a lot of business value in you solving it. Here are actually numbers that we can validate with that. Wouldn't it make sense to engage with this? Let's go whiteboard this out. And there's, again, you're co-creating the solution together, getting back to psychology, getting their hands, their fingerprints on the proposal and the plan and the strategy. So super, again, I'm simplifying it here, but it is a super easy way to go from a 5-figure or 6-figure deal into 7 and 8-figure territory because you're just unlocking more and more opportunities. That's the diamond standard. That is not run rate selling. That is very strategic selling. It's very intentional selling. It's very high level elite selling. That's where you need to be a 7-figure earner.
I remember reading in your ebook that one of the biggest factors you can influence is deal size. You need bigger deals to get to 7 figures. And so this is a key way to do that, becoming a customer of your customer. When I was at Oracle, one of my clients was Citizens Bank. And so that's an example of where you could become a Citizens Bank customer and go to their, like a branch, so that is insightful. Now, I remember reading about how you research a company to also get further in their shoes. Was that a part of this rule or step, or is it part of it?
Yeah.
Okay, can you talk about some of the standard, like must conduct research tips?
Yeah. So I provide an asset that I developed within the ebook that's just a super simple Google Doc that went kind of through every sales stage. So this is where you can marry something like if you follow MEDPIC as your sort of sales framework, your gap analysis.
Can you explain that real quick? I don't know if we want to save that for the ebook, if you want to hit on it now, but like what?
Yeah, well, the short of it is basically your company probably has some sort of sales framework that you follow. So you can apply that, and then I sort of personalize that a bit more and say, okay, what do I need to do at each stage to deliver the diamond standard, deliver a standard? And so let's just say at stage 1, where it's discovery or you're trying to uncover insights, Well, again, I would work with our SDRs. It's so easy to go and experience what it's like to be on hold with customer service. If that's something your technology has a solution for, or on their website, or social media, or understand their newsletter. What are their executives saying on Twitter?
That's a
What's
good one.
important to them? So all of these things, there's a very simple way that you can just document them and understand them so that you can start sharing those insights. Because I wasn't always a loyal customer for every single brand that I went after, but having a process in place, I could uncover insights by being their customer for a day or a week or a handful of weeks during the engagement. It's how I landed actually 2 of the top 4 global airlines. I was definitely flying on one of them every week. The other one, I didn't know so much about because I wasn't flying on them, but I was still able to land them, no pun intended,
Oh,
for
nice.
equal deal sizes. So,
Done.
yeah, yeah. So again, you just have to have sort of a system in place to sort of, okay, I need to understand this brand. What are my company's solution entry points? Where can I solve? It will also help open the aperture for that larger deal size instead of staying so concentrated on just one little piece of their business. Can you show a transformation across multiple use cases, multiple entry points for your solutions? We got to document those things. We got to show and share those things effectively.
So putting in the time for that extra research
Yeah.
elevates every aspect of the sales experience, from that outreach with SDRs or yourself to the calls
Yeah.
and meetings. And that makes a difference. I remember when I was at Google Cloud and we had our big sales kickoff in Vegas. I don't know if it was Gartner or like the Challenger sale or there was some statistic or trusted authority that was saying, I don't know don't quote me, 60% of the buyer's decision is based on the sales experience. Isn't that
Yeah.
cool? It's like pretty
Yeah.
empowering. So we're important,
Yeah.
something like that. Don't quote me,
Yeah.
but the biggest
Yeah.
factor. And so one other thing I don't know if it falls into this step, but was storytelling, an ability to storytell, a part of this? Like when we talk about our
Yeah.
company, we know about their company, like we know
Yeah.
so much, but in terms of how we deliver, how we're different and unique.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is, I believe it's in this where I talk a little bit about it's really important to answer the question, why you? And why you can be a personal thing, literally why you, or it could be your company. And so I give some strategies in how to develop and craft your story so you can answer why you, whether it's on a personal level or about your company. And especially effective if you're just starting at a new company, um, you know pretending you're going to go on a CNBC interview, for instance,
Yes.
and talk about your company in 24 hours. And wow, that would be a really intimidating thing. But if you can sort of force yourself to do it for a day, go scour that company you've just been hired for and try to really almost create like a book report, like old school, like high school book report on your company, or come up with like an executive memo on that company. And in your own words, try to describe what the company does, and almost pretend you're the founding CEO of that company. Hey, this is our history. This is what we went through, trials and tribulations. This is what we're working on. Here's on the roadmap. Here's what we're excited about. Here's the challenge we're solving for. Put yourself in those kind of situations in those shoes. Really kind of forces you to go deep and do the deep work. But that deep work is going to it's going to pay you back when you are in front of a C-level executive, or you're at a networking event or a dinner, and you need to keep up a high-level dialogue that's impactful.
So you can tell I really dug into this ebook. I've gotten a lot
Yeah,
out of it. So I could
great.
keep peppering you with questions on this, but you know what? Let's save a little bit for the audience to dig in themselves. So are we on 5? I think we're on step 5.
So we talked a little bit about yes. We bleeded into that. It was a good segue
Okay.
because
Okay, cool.
step 5 is build a transformation mindset, and kind of what
Okay.
we just talked about really covered that pretty effectively. And yeah, so you could be limited to transactions or open up, like I was saying earlier, the aperture on transformations and going through these exercises, being able to effectively answer why you understand where your solution can affect increasing, revenue, uh, decreasing cost, showing them that not acting right now, what that will cost them, or not give them in return. How can you make the executives reporting and their access to data? How do you make their life better? How do you improve the employees' life and experience? So you need to, like, again, construct a narrative, construct a story around here's how we can fundamentally help your company be better in every way. And it's not to say that you're trying to sell that out of the gate. I should retract that. You're presenting the wide opportunity, but then to close a deal, you have to effectively give them easy things to move on. And so you sell the transformation, but you close on the first step, and that's how you get traction. And that's how you get develop urgency to actually get them to buy today. And so that's really important. That's not operating as a seller so much. You're operating as more of a consultant. You're operating more as a design thinker. Hey, we've got to start
Yes.
big. We've got to
Yes.
say, what are the moonshots? Let's no longer hide behind status quo. We just don't operate that. We just don't do it that way. And if you're getting a lot of that, if you're getting like a CTO who's been there for 25 years, well, maybe that shouldn't be your diamond account. That's an easy way to say, well, I'm not going
Yes.
to beat my head against the wall. Maybe I need to move to a new account where I'm not wasting my time and I'm wasting my energy, wasting my focus. But if you can really latch on to somebody who is excited about mobilizing
Yes.
change, that's where you should like double down. Okay, let's start big, and then strategically say, identify and co-create with them. Here's where we need to start. That's your path to really large deals.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you that's really helpful. Looking back when I started out of college at Oracle, I was a dreamer. I want these big transformational deals, and I was good about getting customers hyped up, but I struggled bridging the gap to where do we crawl, walk,
Yeah.
run. So you hit on
Yeah.
a key point. You have to be able to then figure out where can we start to execute and to get there.
Yeah.
So that was really insightful. Okay, so we hit on the final one, 7,
Yeah.
which is developing an operating system. We started with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So technically, for today's conversation, the final one is step 6.
Yeah.
So what is step 6?
Yeah. So it's perfect segue from that, because to be able to show and get people to trust the customer, the prospect, to trust, hey, where do we start? You've got to rally others in your organization to help with you. So that is step 6, rally others in your org to close the big deals with you. And the lone wolf, just it's not going to work here. Can work in the lower levels, but large strategic enterprise transformation deals, you gotta, and just relying on one person, your solutions consultant, yeah, good luck. Maybe you can sell to a director a small little 25K package, but to sell 2 million, 14 million, $50 million deal, you're going to need a lot of stakeholders involved. And you almost have to give the prospect, especially if you're going after net new logos, you've got to give them a taste of what it's going to be like to be your customer. And that is one thing I prided myself on, is it's not always the external sell, it's the internal sell. You've got to not burn any bridges. You can't. I've seen so many sellers dictate when you should be collaborating. And
Mm.
it's really important that you're not expecting marketing to turn something around in 48 hours just because you're asking for it, or you're working on a high profile account.
Yes.
Same thing with your solutions consultants. You need to make their job easier, give them the opportunity to shine. Pull your CEO in. I give a line in the book, because this is true for me. Be a generalist with your skill set, but a specialist with your outcomes. I
Mm.
am not a great presenter. I am not a great negotiator. I am not the strongest closer. But what I am good about is building these bridges to the right
Mm.
people. And a lot of that is actually going to be internally. Getting your legal team to trust you and want to invest their time when they're time strapped. Your infosec and security teams
Yes.
to deliver the right information. Your solutions consultants, your services group. You've got to pull all those people together, make their job easy, make them excited to work on these deals. That's going to help you. And then your job becomes easier this way as a seller, because they're excited. They come in and they can show them what it's like to be a customer. I look at it, you're a quarterback, you're an
Yes.
orchestrator of these things, and don't be the quarterback that tries to run the ball every single play. Know when to hand off, know when to throw the ball, and know the right players. If you can do that effectively, boom, that's when you're again closing big deals and you're closing them faster.
That's a great one to end on, because one of my mentors told me that all of our success and big success and all opportunities are tied to people. And one of the biggest mistakes I've made, especially being a younger seller, is trying to do it all myself. Like, I need to be technical, or I need to become the best negotiator. I can bring in a CE to be technical by
Yeah.
build a bridge. Like you said, I can bring in my CEO, like I'm doing tomorrow. I've got a
Yeah.
whale prospect meeting tomorrow I'm really excited about. I'm bringing in my CEO for executive alignment. So I think that is a really important final nugget. And in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it talks, one of the habits is synergizing. Remember that? Like, we all go further together. So what
Exactly.
a great way to wrap up. And speaking of wrapping up, I just wanted to thank you for your time. This was
Sure.
so insightful for me. I know it was insightful for the audience. And I want to have a call to action.
Yeah.
Make sure, guys, to check out Brandon on LinkedIn. I linked his LinkedIn in the description. Isn't it Brandon Fluharty on LinkedIn? Am I saying your last name right, by the way?
It's Fluharty. Yeah.
Are you
Close.
sure? Okay, it's not
Yeah.
Fluharty, it's Fluharty. Okay, cool. Gotta get it right. So follow him on LinkedIn, reach out directly. Man, I reached out to him and he was willing to have a conversation. What a guy. And of course, check out his ebook. I'm not trying to sell you here. It's not selling when you believe in the value. I've gotten a lot of value out of it. It's $34. And I'm already applying some of the tips. You could tell I dug into it, but even for a call I had today, that was a huge call, and then a call tomorrow. And I really think it's going to pay off for me. I'm sure it will for you. So check that out. I linked it in the description. And again, reach out to him. Brandon, do you have any other thoughts of inspiration, and also maybe finish up with kind of the why behind this ebook and what you're doing?
Yeah. So appreciate that. One little clarification is we did launch this week, time of airing. So it's $34 now. On March 14th, it's going to actually go up to its full price, $77.
Okay,
However, if you sign up for the newsletter, we'll link that in, you get a code to get it for the $34. So just a great way we want to incentivize folks to be a part of this community. I call the community Be Focused, Live Great. We also have a subgroup called Make More, Hustle Less, where we'll actually get into every month. I actually provide a further detailed, we go down the rabbit hole on a personal operating system blueprint that you get a part of the Make More, Hustle Less club. And every month we get on a live call, answer the questions. We deconstruct one step in 7 steps. As well as building your own personal operating system. So that's the community we're building. And actually, I'm full-time with it as of this week. I'm fully retired from the corporate world. Thank you.
This is a momentous occasion, something to be celebrated. That's perfect time.
Yeah. So again, inspiration for me is you can put yourself in a position to retire in your early 40s or younger. And sales was the catalyst for me to do that. Build wealth, build relationships, build confidence to now strike it out on my own as an entrepreneur. I went from intrapreneur to entrepreneur, and sky's the limit at that point. So others can do it too. You just need the right system in place.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much. To the audience, again, follow him on LinkedIn, connect, check out his system, get connected with his community. 7 figures is totally possible. And at the end of the day, building a rich and meaningful life is totally possible. A mental, emotional, and financial freedom is possible. I'm getting riled up. So if anything, guys, also, I'd ask you, give this video a like. The algorithm loves that. If you got value out of it, which I'm sure you did, it'll show the video to more faces who could benefit from the message. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel for weekly sales, mental health, and personal growth hacks that you can chew on like snacks. Happy selling and happy living, guys. And Brandon, again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Cheers.